Welcome to the final sugya of the sugya mezuzah. It's Hashem, at least that we'll be learning. So the Gemara says, Pan Rabbanan, the top of Kubez Amid Aleph, Hamasker Bais L'Chavero Ala Socher Lasos LaMezuzah. It's a chiyuv on the socher, the renter, to put up the mezuzah. I mean, if it wasn't up there yet, and now it's a shaila of who's supposed to put it up, then it's a chiyuv on the socher before the masker. When he leaves, when the socher leaves, even though he put it up and it wasn't his own house, but he spent the money to put up mezuzah, he can't take it out biyado b'yotzei. But if he rents it from a goy, when he leaves, he could take it in his hand and leave. And the Maisa was that someone left like that, and he ended up burying his wife and two kids, lo aleinu. Maisa, this door, we just said it's okay, so we can bring in rice, a carrot. Risheshis or rashis. Go on the resha where it says don't take it. If someone did take it, then there's a sakana on the one who takes it. As the post could point out, that the sakana is not only on the one who took it off, the one that's going to be moving in, it's a sakana on the one who actually took it off. So the we have here a major machlokes rishonim. What's the halacha to be taking off the mezuzah if you know someone else is going to be coming in? Or if you're going to be putting it up right away somewhere else. If you're going to take it off now, immediately to put it up somewhere else. So the Nebuki Yosef here in Bab Metzia, the Daf New Testament Aleph and the Daf Yarif, says Tana Rabbana Lo Yitlena Shtamak Tani Afilu B'Shitzarach Osal L'Bayis Acher. Even if the one going out, he's going to rent another house and he needs this for another house, so he needs his mezuzahs for the second place. Even so, it's also to take it off. Even though it's a Machlokes Rav and Shmuel and Shabbos Daf Chaf Beis and the sugya of Bizui Mitzvah, there's certain things you can't do out to Bizayin HaMitzvah, Bizui Mitzvah. And over there's a shaila between Rav and Shmuel whether you can take off tzitzis from one beged to put it onto another beged, onto a different talis. And we pass on like Shmuel that taka matirin beged, you're allowed to take off tzitzis from one beged if you want it on a different beged. So why is that different than here? That you want to take off the mezuzah from this house to put onto a different house. Shani Hacha, here it's different. It came in the Chayla, Kedusha, Shechina, B'Bayzeh, Ein Lo L'Salach Misham, Ritva. Says a Gvalig Achedesh, the name of the Ritva, that since the mezuzah here brings Kedusha Shechina onto this house, so you can't take the mezuzah away to be Masalik the Shechina from this house, even though you need it for a different place. It's not Roy to be Masalik the Shechina from this house. So, Peldikas for you have to be reached from say such a thing, and it is Shem the Ritva. So it comes out according to this Nuki Yosef that it's usher to, even if you need it for another place, it's usher to take it off now from this place. However, the Nuki Yosef seems to be soser himself, that in Menachos, in the end of Mezuzah, the Nuki Yosef says, Lo Yitlena, because of Hashem Rav Acha Mishavcha, wrote the name of the Goyin, Rav Acha Mishavcha, one of the Goyinim, who is the author of the Shiltas, the Rav Acha Goyin. When is it also? It's only if you're not going to set it up right away in another house. The Kaval Alter, Bais Acher, Mutter Litla, Kadaminim, Atirin, Sitzis, Rebega the Beged, with Sarach Iyun. He ends off with the Sarach Iyun, which here, according to Rav Acha Mishavcha, we are comparing mezuzah to tzitzis. In other words, everyone agrees we have an av over here, which is tzitzis, which tells you that you are allowed to take off from one beged to another. The question is, can we compare mezuzah to tzitzis or not? And that's the machlokes, the Ritva and the Shiltas that the Mukios is bringing down. So it's interesting, he sows him in one place like the Ritva, and here he sows him like the Mukiosef, like the Shiltas, that it's mutter, that it's like tzitzis, it is dumid tzitzis. So, okay, I'm not going to try to miyashiv a steer in Yosef because it's just a steer. I guess he was choser at one point or something. But the fact is we have a tremendous machlokes rishonim over here, whether it's compared to tzitzis or not. The shaila is, what's the nukudas machlokes? How do we understand this machlokes rishonim? And on top of that, also, I think it's Rimaorer, the Lashon Gemara is Madgish a couple times in Bab Metzia, whether it says that the Socher, when he leaves, Lo Yitlena B'Yodo. What's the Dagish on B'Yodo? Why are we Madgish that Nakuda of B'Yodo? And the Gemara says that a couple times, we, whether yes or no, can take it B'Yodo. Why are we talking about B'Yodo? Who cares how we take it? You know, it's not going to be Lafuke what? Lafuke, your foot. Like, what's the point of B'Yodo? Or that's Niz Hesber. And the mice of this Shaila, whether if you need it for another place immediately or not, this Machlokas Hashanim seems to be a Machlokas within also Tosfos as well. The Tosfos in Bab Metzia over there, Bab Metzia, and that sugya on the previous Amud. He said in Kuf Aleph Amud Beis, Lo Yitlena B'Yetzei, Aval Gaf to Amar Shmuel the Matilin Beged the Beged. Even though Shmuel says you can move tzitzis from one beged to another, Gab Mezuzah also. So he's machalik like the Ritva was machalik between tzitzis and mezuzah for a different reason. The Ritva said it's mitzad the kedushas of shechina is chal on the house, and you can't move that. You can't misalik that shechina from the house. Tosa says the fisha mazikin boyim b'bayis she'ein bo mezuzah. Ukshanot la kilu mazik oisan she'adur b'bayis. Because mazikin comes to the house, and we said many times that the mezuzah is shomerim in a mazikin. So Tosa makes that part of the equation over here. That this shmira that the mezuzah causes, since you're misalik it from those that are coming in, and maybe even though the other ones coming in might plan to put up their own mezuzahs, but Maisa, your achrais is that to make sure that they're not going to, they might forget, whatever. So you're taking away their shmira, and that's usher. And the Achronim say that, like we said before, according to Tosos, that the sakana that goes on the people that are coming into the house, equally it goes on the one who takes it away, because since you were not concerned about taking away the shmira from another Jew, then that takes shmira away from yourself as well. And that's why the Maisa in the Gemara was the one who took off the mezuzah. He's the one that was kover ishtosh and ibanav lolan, and not the one that came into the house. So we see that it's an isser on the person that goes out, because he's misalik the shmira from those that are going to be coming in, and that causes himself to have a klala on himself. So Tosis is a little bit different than the Luke Yosef, but according to the Sfor of Tosis, since it's not machalik between the other people coming in right away or not, it's mashma from Tosis that it's usher even if they're coming in right away and they're going to put another mezuzah up right away, or even if you're going to put it up somewhere else. For sure, according to the Sfor of Tosis, doesn't help the fact that you're going to put it up somewhere else right away, which that's the Shalom in Luke Yosef, because Ma'anaf Kamina, you're going to put it up right away in another house, but again to the shmira that you're taking away from this house. So according to the Sfor of Tosis, it's pashat that doesn't help to put it up immediately in another house to make a heter, to create a heter to take it off now. That's according to that Tosis. Tosis in Shabbos and Chaf Beis, and that sugya of tzitzis, the sugya of bizvei mitzvah. So going on, Rav, who holds you're not allowed to switch a mezuzah, a tzitzis from one beggar to another. Tosa says, "Lomi boy ichovas talasu asur." Not only if the chi of tzitzis is a chovas talis, it's a chi on the talis, which is shalom amaroyim. Elo filu chovas gavra nami asur. Even if it's a chovas gavra, it's the fact that it's not chi on the etzim talis, it's just a chi on the gavra when he puts the talis on to have tzitzis. Even so, according to Rav, it's still asur. Rav is not totally in that machlokas whether it's chovas gavra or chovas talis. What's his raya? Could ashkecham b'mezuzah the nenesh osa shenotla above metzia. Like we find by mezuzah that the one that took it off, he's the one that gets an onesh, even though he's not going to be living there anymore. So if it's even though it's a chovas abayis to have it up there, still the one who's taking it off, he's no longer going to be there. He's the one that's an onesh. Avagav the chovas. So Tosa says for carrot. Avagav the chovas hadarhu. That it's also to take it down, even though it's chovas hadar. It's not a chovas abayis. Sorry, the other way around. It's chovas hadar. It's even on the gabra pashtus, like which that Chavos Hadar Tosus is learning that makes it similar to the Manda Amar that tzitzis is Chavos Gavra. And even so, Rav will Aser take it off tzitzis, like we find by mezuzah that even though it's Chavos Hadar, still there's no machlokas if you're allowed to take it off or not. With Shmuel Amar Matirin, so Shmuel holds you could be Matirin Beged Beged. I've got the Shmuel Gufei Savar the Chavos Talasi. Shmuel himself holds it's Chiv Talis and the Gemara Menachos. If you're looking at Tirin, Kain Shasol the Tzorach Beged Acher, since you're making it for the sake of another Beged. So now what about mezuzah? So what does Shmuel do with mezuzah? Gabi mezuzah shenena shema lohaya b'daito laniach b'bayis acher. So does want to say a chilik that maybe in Achanami, according to Shmuel, if he holds this mutter by tzitzis, it's also going to be mutter on mezuzah. So why would he nanish over there? Because he took it down without kavanah to put it up on another house. Inami mezuzah shayni shasuya v'hatzal in mazikin. Or now, so Tosas the inami is like the Tosas in Menachos. That's a problem of chovas shmiras habayis. It's showing in mazikin. Avogat l'kuyama in. Okay, we'll skip the rest of it. So Tosas really has a suffix whether or not we can compare tzitzis to mezuzah or not. Do we say it's the same? It's the same gedarim, or we say it's a totally different getter because we have this new inyan of shmira l'gabe mezuzah. So what Tosas seems to take on above Metzia is davar pasha should be usher even if your kavanah is to put it in another place. So Tosas seems to have a suffix about that in Shabbos. But the Charav Tosas Menachos and the sugya of also there's a sugya bizui mitzvah over there and Mem Aleph and Beis and Menachos brings again down the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel if you can match your mitzitzis min beged lebeged. And Tosas over there also says, and Mem Aleph and Beis do Maskal Rav Amar, he says, Afil the Manda Amar Chavos Gavra, even if tzitzis is a Chavos Gavra, Savar Rav de'ein levatel mitzvahs hatalis. Rav holds you can't be levatel the mitzvah that's on the talis. In other words, so Tosas is learning that the din of ein matirin, the problem over here is not really the tzitzis, the problem is the talis. If you have a talis shel mitzvah, now you're mafkia from it being a talis shel mitzvah, just turning it to just a regular piece of cloth. That's the problem according to Rav. Could ashkam b'mezuzah b'sof hashoyel shenenash also shenafal mezuzah avgav the chavos hadar hu. Even though it's chavos hadar and by mezuzah, still the fact that you're taking in a house that was a home that had a mezuzah and you're misalik that. So that's what the onish comes from. The Shmuel Damar Matir and Avgat the Kasavar Chavos Talisi, Shmuel holds our matir. Even though it's a Chavos Talis, he still holds us, you're allowed to do it, to take the tzitzis from one to the other. So you think for carrot, you think if it's a Chavos Talis, according to Shmuel, it should be more chaver than according to Rav holds it's a Chavos Gavra possibly. And he holds that it's usher, and Shmuel holds it's a Chavos Talis and it's still its mutter. It's like if Chavos Tabra. So Tosas says, Da Shmuel B'chayev L'el Kli Kufsa came to Ein Lo Ela Kedei Talis Achas. Tov Shiyiten Ba'osa Shu Chafetz This Ateh Ba Lo Dami L'Mezuzah. So Tosas says that you can't compare it, according to Shmuel, you can't compare it to mezuzah because Shmuel agrees you cannot take off mezuzah if you want it to be in another house. So then why is talis okay? Because if you want it to be in a better talis, then it's going to be more hiddur mitzvah to be in the second talis. So it's better for the mitzvah of tzitzis that it should be in the second talis, the one that you really want to put it on. So that's like docha. It really should be aser, but it should be considered like a bizayin mitzvah to take it off one to be involved with that talis. But since you want it in a better talis, so the zek keli van vehu, the mitzvah to be mahadar mitzvahs, to have a mitzvah huderes, that's docha, the problem of taking off the tzitzis. So really he's holding that it is a comparison to tzitzis, between tzitzis and mezuzah, just by tzitzis there's an extra sfora, a new sfora of hiddur mitzvah to be docha. So it really comes out now, very interesting that actually, we have a chiluk between tzitzis and And according to Tosfos, a chiluk between tzitzis and mezuzah, and so the halacha, no matter, Tosfos had a suffix about it in Shabbos, but both Tosfos and Bava Metzia and Tosfos and Menachos are taking on that we cannot be machriya the halacha by mezuzah from the halacha by tzitzis. So it comes out of it that the machlokas between the Ritva that we saw in Nuki Yosef and the Rav Acham Shavcha and the other Nuki Yosef, whether if you have kavanah to put the mezuzah in another house, the socher goes out to put up in another house, that's the machlokas whether that is a heter or not. So it's a really big suffix in Tosfos throughout Shas. So we have to understand what's the kudas and machlokas here between the Rishonim. Getting a little hot here. Excuse me. So in order to understand it, we have to really take a look at the shiltas inside, which we sent out in the Marmakomos. So we take a look at the shiltas. We'll just sort of read it through and hopefully you have it with you, where they sent out the copies. Ilu manda isle glima of ramiale tchilta, v'kaboy l'zvune l'Yisrael acher, boy l'mishkale l'tchilta, v'hadar zvune. So somebody who has a talis that has tchelis in it and wants to sell it to another Jew, should take away the tchelis, take out the tzitzis, and then sell it. It should become a vatzal mitzvah. So he says you should, but there's a gears over here that it's usher to take it out. Inami have a dar, the baisa of a kabbalah mezuzah, because he compares it. There's the toaster and the girsa, and the shila shalom fixes it that it's usher to take it out, because he's comparing to mezuzah that inami have a hadar, the baisa of a kabbalah mezuzah, a kanafikle usher lemishkale may name it should become vatal mitzvah. Because he's comparing it to mezuzah that's the raya that you cannot take it out when you sell it to another Jew. Because for the same reason, when you sell a house to another Jew, you can't take the mezuzah off because you're mevatel of the mitzvah. What's the raya? It goes on the shultas and says, the Tanur Rabbanan, Hamaska Bais L'Chavero, we have our brisa we just learned, that you rent a house to somebody, Ala Socha Lasses Mezuzah, Kushu Yotzo Lo Yutlena B'Yodo V'Yotze. B'kusi not l'biyarav yatzei. A ma'isa b'adam echad shenot l'biyarav yatzei v'kaver ishto b'shnei banav ma'isa l'stor amar sheishes areshet. That's the Gemara we just saw. So the Shultas goes on and says, Bram, nevertheless, tzarech l'meimar, we need to say, hani mili ki asher l'mishkal, when is it asher to take it off? Hekad lo kaval l'mezuzah b'shaitei t'chilta b'shaitei. If you're not going to right away be kaveya that mezuzah in another place. And also the tzitzis are also to take off if you're planning not to put them into another place, to another talis right away. But what about if you do want to put it into another place? Is that mutter or not? Mir minen came into hide to kashakalu. I died to the mitzvah. Do you say that since when you take it off of, let's say, one talis, or you take it off the house? So the shultas is putting together tzitzis and mezuzah all the way through. He's putting them both in the same basket. So he's saying that by a mezuzah or by tzitzis, if you plan to put it on to another talis or another house, the fact that you plan to put it there, there's no problem with bizayon. Or maybe came into adis abid bahan is bizayon v'asar. Maybe since until you do put up in the other place, right now it's not doing any mitzvah in the interim. Maybe that is a bizayon. So how do we machriya that shala? Is it asar or not? If your kavanah was all along to put it in another place right away. But sof kol sof, there's going to be a period of time in between you taking it off and putting it on that it's not going to be on a place. Is that a bizayon for that mezuzah or those tzitzis? Tashma, so bring a raya from the Gemara. Itmar Rav Amar ein matir mi beged lebeged. Shmuel Amar matirin. Rav Amar Ein Madlikin Miner L'Ner Shmuel Amar Madlikin. Rav Amar Ein Halakha Rishim B'Greira Shmuel Amar Halakha Rishim B'Greira. Amar Abaya Kol Mili Damar Abid Karab Bar Min Dain plus the Abid Kashmuel. Material Beged LeBeged. The main bird the Hilchos like a Shmuel Deshari. So we see that the Gemara passes like Shmuel that it's mutter to switch a switch tzitzis from Beged LeBeged. And from there we know that also it's mutter to take off a mezuzah to put it onto another place. So we're machriya from tzitzis, machriya the shaila of mezuzah. So this is the opinion of Acham Mishavcha that we saw in the Mikki Yosef in Menachos, that you're allowed to take it off your kavanahs to put it on right away in another place. But the shultas inside is explaining to us that the shaila over here is a shaila bizayan hamitzvah. Because this whole machlokas Rav and Shmuel is in the sugya of bizayan hamitzvahs. There's no mention over there anything about shmira or anything like that. It's a straight shaila of bizayan mitzvah. Is it considered a bizui or not? And the shultas is learning that the bizayan that we're talking about is not a bizayan in the house. He doesn't mention anything about the house. It's a question of, is it a bizayan to these tzitzis or to this mezuzah while it's in the interim, if it's in between. There's no room to talk about the house or the beged over here, because there's no question about what the matzah of the original house is. There's no in between the gabi the first house. It's just the mezuzah is off and that's it. If the bizayan mitzvah would be the fact that you're, like one of the lashonos of Tosfos was that you are the vase of the house, that it was a place of a kiyum mitzvah, like it became like a unit, a cheftza of overall kiyum mitzvah by having a unit of a house with a mezuzah, and by taking it off, that's a bizayan to the house. Dumya to what Tosfos says that the problem with tzitzis is also bizayan l'talis. There's also Rashi and Menachos Mem Aleph and Beis in the beginning of the Amud. We got another thing that also is mashma like that, like Tosfos, that the bizayan is bizayan l'talis. So then there's nothing to talk about in the interim. It's mavuzah v'omer. There's no tikkun for that. So that's the shaila: is it a bizayan or not? But according to the shultas, we see that the shaila bizayan, it is a shaila bizayan purely, and the question of bizayan is not on the house or on the talis, but it's on the tzitzis or the mezuzah, the cheftza of the mezuzah. The bizayan for that mezuzah itself, if right now, before it was a instrument for that kiyum mitzvah, and now it's just in the air. It's not Mekayim mitzvah. That's the shaila of bizayon, and we're pushing it from what Shmuel tells us, that we paskin like Shmuel that your matzah beged lebeged, that's not considered a bizayon for the tzitzis to go from one beged to the other, even though there's an interim time that will not have any, not be in a beged. Who adin the gabi mezuzah, it's not considered a bizayon for the mezuzah, as long as your kavana is, it's like a yerida l'tzarach aliyah. You're planning to put it into another house. That's not considered a bizayon the mitzvah. So it's coming out to be a very sodistic machlokas going on over here between the shultas, really, and Tosfos. And this the Netziv points out in Hamek Shaila over here in his parish that this is really the machlokas between the Rishonim over here, that according to the Tosfos, we say that it's better is lo dami l'mezuzah, because we're coming out with there's a shadow whether there's dami l'mezuzah or not. On that side that it is because it's a bizayon to the house, like it's a bizayon to the talis, because it's a bias sheyesh l'mezuzah. And therefore, there's not going to be any heter for moving it to another house that you plan to put it up right away. Mashenkin, according to the shultas, the bizayon is in the etzem mezuzah. There's room to say, and that's where we're like Shmuel, that it's dunya to tzitzis, and it's not considered a bizayon l'mitzvah to have kavanah to put it to another house. So that's really the sod of the machlokas. Then the Netziv wants to say a chiddush in Tosfos. Most achronim seem to learn in Tosfos that that the ikar yisod of the problem is, like Tosfos says in Vav Netzia, it's a problem of shmira. If it's pure shalom of shmira, then Netziv has a big problem with that. That what's the havamina to be medana this in any way to tzitzis? The problem of mezuzah is the problem of shmir, that you're taking off the shmir from the house, or let's say like the ritva, embellishes it a little bit and says that's not just a pure shmira, but it's like you're taking the shechina in the house and you're taking the shechina away from the house. What's the possible dimion in that and tzitzis? It's not even having it to be medam the two. Tzitzis for sure. There's no chalosh shechina by putting tzitzis in, and there's also no shmira going on, or lack of shmira. The whole discussion is a moot point when you get the tzitzis. There's no shaychus to be medam the two. So if that's the case, like the Achronim learned, then what was Tosfos having to be medam? And Tosfos really in Shabbos has a besafek whether we're medam the two or not. So the Netziv wants to learn in Tosfos that really Tosfos agrees to the Shultas b'yisoidoi, that the sugya of Rav and Shmuel of tzitzis is in the sugya of bizayin and mitzvah. So the real sugya by us also, the klare, the shaila, the suffix, whether or not there's a heter or not to put it from one house to another, it's also within the realm of the sugya of bizayin the mitzvah. It's just there's really a machlokus between the Shultas and Tosfos where the bizayin would be. According to the Tosfos, the bizayin is on the house or on the beged, and according to the Shultas, the shala bizayin is on the strings of the tzitzis or on the etz and chetz of the mezuzah. And Tosfos that mentions shmira, that's just an additional svara to make it asur. It's not really about shmira. That's just an additional svara. Tosfos didn't need to speak out the main nekuda, the main yisod of bizayin and mitzvah, because we're talking in the sugya of bizayin and mitzvah. Tosfos didn't need to speak that out. Tosfos is adding an additional svara that b'machriya lahachmir to add to it the element also of shmira. But really, the ikar yisod of is mitzad bizayin and mitzvah, the kuli alma. And obviously that there are these nafkaminas, like we said, the nafkamina whether the Zion would be on the bias or on the etz mezuzah. We have this nafkamina of whether or not it helps to put it to another house or not. The other nekudas in the Netziv as well. Let me find to speak it out. There can be other nafkaminas as well. Like there can be chumras and kulas, and either way you look at this whole thing, that let's say you want to tie the tzitzis into a beged that you don't have kavanah to, you don't have a kavanah to wear the second beged. You're going to take it off and put it into a second beged that you're going to put away in the closet. So according to Tosfos, it'll be asur because it's not going to be a hefzer shel mitzvah. It's not going to be a beged shel mitzvah because you're not going to put it on, and you're taking it off of the beged shel mitzvah. And even according to Shmuel, you could go be beged the beged since it's a bizayin l'talis. The only reason the Tosfos says you're allowed to put it on the second talis is, and it's not a bizayin, is because to the first talis is because you plan to put it on a second one which is better. So we look at the overall total picture of the mitzvah tzitzis is going to gain that you're going to be mekayim zekelu and begu by a nicer talis. Mashenken, if you plan to just to put it away, then there's not going to be a better kiyum mitzvah. There's not going to be a hetzer according to Shmuel to make it me bega the beged. Whereas according to the Shulta, says the Netziv, that'll be mutter because sof kol sof there's no bizayin in the tzitzis because they are in a beged in a way that they could be mekayim the mitzvah. And also, let's say the opposite. Let's say if you want to take off the tzitzis from the first beged, you want to take them off to put nicer tzitzis on the first beged. This is a suffix in the Maggid Avram whether you're allowed to do this or not. So according to Rashi and Tosfos, that the problem is bizayin of the beged to take off the tzitzis, like dubia to the house, that it's bizayin to the bias to take it off, like Tosfos says. So then it's a pasha that it should be mutter in this case of the Maggid Avram, because it's a bigger covet for this talis to have nicer tzitzis in it. So if the problem is the beged that you're taking the tzitzis off of it, then kol sheken it's going to be okay to take it off to put something nicer on it. It's going to be more mehuder for this beged. According to the Shultas, it says you can have a suffix whether it's a bizayin for these very tzitzis themselves, because these tzitzis they're on now, are not going to go to another beggar; they're just going to go to Shemos or whatever. So then it might be also out to Zion of that of those tzitzis, or maybe you could say, and so we can be machriya the suffix of the Magen Avraham based on this Rashi and Tosas, and possibly in the Shultas. But then the Siv says himself that maybe since there is a Zek Kelim and Veyu even for this talis and for the overall mitzvah tzitzis, Sof Kol Sof, there's a hitter more in the mitzvah tzitzis. Maybe even the Shultas would agree that it's not considered a bezoyan for the mitzvah of tzitzis. We don't look at just the chesed of the tzitzis. We look at maybe the mitzvah of tzitzis. Maybe the Shultas would agree in that case. So he has a suffix about that. Malkopanim, we have a hesber in the Ikra Machlokes Rishonim that's going on over here that whether the everyone is agreeing that the shayla is bezayin the mitzvah, to take off the mezuzah from one house to put it to another, and the shayla is if it's a bezayin in a house, so then there's no heter. That's for Tosis. But if it's a bezayin for the etzem mezuzah, then the mezuzah is going to another house, maybe a better house, doesn't matter. If they're going to live in the second house, there's no bezayin and mitzvah. That's the psak of the shultas. And the ma'isa, the halacha. So first, before we go to the halacha, I just want to say that it's possible that this machlokas is really everyone, the Rishonim all going to Shitasan. Because we learned in the previous year that the machlokas about Chovas Adar, the Shalom of Chovas Adar, that when the Gemara said that mitzvah is Chovas Adar, so we learned then that there's a machlokas Rishonim whether it's meaning to say that it's a pure Chovas Gavra, it's a chiv in the Gavra, and it's not a chiv in the Bais at all. Rashi said that clearly. Rashi and over there in Babetzia and the Rambam also said Chovas Hadar v'lo habais. Whereas Tosas and Menachos and our sugya Mem Daled, that previous sugya, Tosas said there that all along that it's a Chovas habais, even on the side that's a chiv deraisa for the socher, because it's based dira today. So it's a tzirif of the bilas, the gavra together, the diras of gavra. You need a person to live there and an ownership over the house, some level of ownership that it has to be either it's a dira kavua or you have actual ownership according to the second lashon of Tosfos. But it's for sure a chalos. It's some degree on the bais. It's not just a pure chiyuv on the gavra. So Mamela Tosfos l'shitasan that it's always a chiyuv in the bais. Mezuzah is not just ever a pure chiyuv in the gavra. It's always a chiyuv in the bais. So Tosfos l'shitasan learns that the Isser Natila is going to be even if you plan to put it on another house. So if you're taking it off of this house and you have the unit, the chiyuv mezuzah is a chal on the bais, and the unit of the mezuzah with the house together with the diras adam is a totality of the mitzvah. So by taking it off of this house, then it's a
Hello?
Anybody know what happened?
Yeah, Rebbe froze and then it got disconnected, but now it's working again.
Okay, good. So I'll send out a thing soon. Okay, good. That was strange. Okay, so we're just ending off saying that we have a major machlokas between the Shultas, and we understand through the Netziv, the Nekudas and Machlokas, the Shultas and Tosas, that Tos and Lishu Tasam, that since the Chiyuv is on the Bais to begin with, like we learned in the last year, so Tosas Lishu Tasam learns that the Bizayin and Mitzvah will also be on the Bais. Because that's where the Kiyum is, that's where the Bizayin will be. According to the Shultas will not like Rashi, that the Ikra Chiyuv is of Chovas Hadar is on the Gavra, not on the Bais. Unlike the Rambam says, Al Gavra v'lo al Bais, Chovas Hadar v'lo Chovas Bais. So Mela Bal Korkach, the Bizayin cannot be the Bais, because that's not where the Chalos Chiyuv is. It must be in the Etzem Chetza of the Mezuzah. And Mela we have this Geshmak and Afkamina that you would be allowed to put it from one house to the other. So Baruch Hashem, we have a good hezber for the Machlokas, the Shultos, and Tosas, and the Tosas of Bila Shitasam.
Rebbe?
Yes.
So Tosis would agree. I guess it might be a silly case, but let's say you have a shack or something like a shed that has a mezuzah on it, and then you move that entire shed to another place. So then you'd be able to, according to him, you'd be able to keep it on, right?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Meaning it's a chiv on the bias, right? But if that bias somehow moves,
according to the Tosas.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you move the house, you can move the mezuzah with it. I mean, there'll be a question whether while it's moving, is it mafkiyat from the same bias, the fact that it's moving, and well, then it starts questions of tassel and asli, but yeah, and achanami. But just what we're clearing over here is the bizayon that according to the Netziv, Tos agrees with the Netziv. There's a question of bizayon. The question is, where is this bizayon chalan if you take off the mezuzah? Is it a bizayon in that bais, the unit of the bais of the mezuzah, taking it off like silica shchina or silica mitzvah or silica base dira shel mezuzah, or is it it's a chovas hadar zachiv in the gavra, and therefore the bizayon can only be in the etzem mezuzah, not in the etzem mezuzah, not in the bais. Therefore, there'd be a heter to move from bais to bais. So that's very geshmak. I think hezber in the machlokas, and I think we see also another nafkamina in this. Another nafkamina, which will be so. First of all, the Piskei Tshuva from the says b'shem mechida b'shem. I think I have a Shulchan Aruch here with me. Don't have it here. All right. Let's see if we can find. Yeah, another very geshmak enough community is going to be, and there's a shal in Igros Moshe, which we sent it out. Chelik Ches, it's your idea Daled, synonym Daled. That if a person wants to take a step back, the Piskei Tshuva says that, like in the going on the Shulchan Aruch and Reish Sadik Aleph Beis, just he quotes this lashon of Gemara: "Delo yatlu klal b'Yisrael," or Yisrael. If it's for Yisrael to Yisrael, you can never take it off. And by the way, the Shulchan Aruch also quotes the lashon of the Gemara. The lashon of Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch all quote the lashon of Gemara that we asked on to begin with, when it says "Lo yatlu b'yodo," b'yetze. We asked the question, why does it say b'yodo? Why would we madgish this point of b'yodo? Who cares how you take it off? B'yodo or not b'yodo? So I think according to the Svara, what the Netziv says, that there's no machlokas, that the problem over here is bizui mitzvah. Bizayin mitzvah is whether it's on the house or it's on the mezuzah, but it's bizayin mitzvah. So therefore, the ikar bizayin mitzvah is going to be if you actually take it off, l'shem taking it off. notel biyado v'yetzei. It's not that it's somehow off in some other way, in the fact that you're moving it somewhere else. It's the netila biyado, the bizayin mitzvah, like we find throughout the sugya of bizayin mitzvah. If you look back over there, like there's a lot of different cases of bizayin mitzvah, but it's always you have to do a ma'isa bizayin for it to be a bizayin. And that's why there's a dagish on netila biyado v'yetzei. And I think that a very geshmak enough communion that will be that's shot in the Gemara, but the halacha that Ramosha and his tshuva raises the question of if you have a very, very special mezuzah that you have in your house and you want to move to another place. So is that then a heter to take it off because it's really special for you? Is there any way that you could take it off and maybe put another one up? So Ramosha goes back and forth that in the Piskei Tshuva, it brings in the name of the Birchei Yosef. Birchei Yosef says that in a place where you're going to move to another, you're renting one place, you're going to move to another place, you're not going to be able to get mezuzahs there. Mezuzahs are not going to be available. Not like today, you order it online, you get it, and they're going to send it to you. You have to go to a place where you're going to have a sofa there that's going to have mezuzahs, otherwise you're not going to find mezuzahs. There's no stores in those days. So because you're not going to find another mezuzah in the other place. Birchei Yosef holds then, and since that's called the shasat chak, you're not going to have it as mezuzah, then kadaihu Rav Acha Mishabcha, it's kadai the shiltus to be samach on him, even though the halacha we see from the Shulchan Aruch, are not that way. The Shulchan Aruch does not differentiate between if you plan to put it up right away or not. So before we're not passing like the shiltus. Nevertheless, if in shasat chak, we can rely on the shiltus and take it off to, in this kind of case, to put it on another house. So Moshe says that the shoel, whoever asked Moshe the Shaila, wanted to compare this case of you have special mezuzahs to the case of the Piskei Tshuva, because even though you can get other mezuzahs where you're going to move to, you're not going to be able to get these mezuzahs. You have very special mezuzahs, whether you have some kind of a emotional attachment to these mezuzahs, somebody special gave it to you, your great uncle who passed away gave it to you, whatever it is, something special about that. Just one second. So, if you, so the Shoel wanted to say that since you can't get these special mezuzahs in the second place, that it's similar to the case of the Piskei Tshuva, of the Chidah. So Moshe says it's not a comparison. You can't compare that because the case of the Chidah is shasat chak, you're not going to have it in mezuzah at all. And he says even you that likes these special mezuzahs, you agree that you're going to get the mitzvah of mezuzah in the second place, even though you don't have such special ones. So, and he goes back and forth through a lot of different diyunim, and he can't really find a heter mitzad atzmo, but at the end he says that the shoel is allowed to be somech on a psak that he heard in the name of Rav Henkin, or maybe from Rav Henkin. That's all. That the minute was in America then. I guess in many cases it's the way now also. But he said that there's no way that the owner of the apartment is going to let somebody else come in before he paints the whole apartment. And since the apartment is going to have to be painted and mezuzahs is going to have to be come down for that reason, you're allowed to take down your mezuzahs for the sake of them being painted. Once they're down already, then you can take those and put other ones and leave other ones to go up for afterwards. So that heter Moshe is makabel. So the Korah, what minaf gemina, we take it down for this reason. The ma'aser you're taking the mezuzahs out of the house. So why is that a heter? Why does that help the fact that you take it down for the sake of painting? But I think according to what we're saying, when we die from Lashon Gemara, lo yitlena biyada v'yetzei, because the netila biyada, when you take it down from it being a chefta shel mitzvah, either a house or the mezuzah, then that's a ma'aser bizayon, either in the bayis or in the mezuzah, by taking it down to misalik it from its mitzvah. So in a case where you need to take it down for the cover of the mitzvah, because you can't have the mezuzahs get mevuzah through getting painted, so there's no problem of the netila biyado. So you took away the ikar problem of bizayon mitzvah. So then it's okay to take, once they're down already, you're not over bizayon mitzvah anymore. So there's no problem of leaving something else and taking the special ones for yourself. That's where much comes out, and it's very, I think, geshmak with the sfor that we said. And now the poskim, Moshe seems to be a little bit of a das yochid in this, because there's a long list of poskim that talk about if you have very expensive mezuzahs up. You bought the Mahadrim and Mahadrim. You bought very expensive mezuzahs. You have $500 mezuzahs on your house that you're renting there, and you want to move to another house. You don't want to leave $500 mezuzahs. The guy moving in is for sure not going to pay you for that, even though there's a din to pay the person if they're makpid on it. You need to pay them. First of all, you can't be gover that bedin. The post can say you can't be mechayev him, and second of all, the most you can be mechayev at all, the Beis Din would even say to do without a real chiyuv would only be to pay for the minimum amount that would cost to get mezuzahs mehudaros, which would be far less than what you have in your Mahadrim and Mahadrim. So the Lamaisa, this is similar to Ramosha's case, just when Ramosha talked about a case where it's sentimental value or some other reason you want this special mezuzah. I think he said that it was a special sofer who wrote those that you can't get them anywhere else. Which Ramosha declared maybe that since it's a chiyuv of money to pay, then it's you can say that it's beyond value and therefore there's no way to pay him for it. But he's docha, that's for him. Wakapanim, there's in the case where they have the expensive mezuzahs, there's a long list of poskim. Among them, it's brought down, and the Piskei Mezuzah brings down from the Das Kedoshim, the Minchas Yitzchak, Ravais, the Chovas Hadar, the Shevet Levi, the Bia Omer, and the Ber Moshe. So you have the earlier poskim, you have the Chassidish poskim, you have the Yerushalmi poskim, you have the Sephardi poskim, and and you have all across the board. They all say that there's a heter for you yourself to, a few days before you move out to put up cheaper mezuzahs on your house. You're allowed to take down one to put up other ones, as long as you have a combination of a kavana to this. So this house, we're not going to be without a mezuzah. You're not leaving a house without mezuzahs. And as far as your mezuzahs are concerned, there's no bizayin on that because you have the svara of the shultas that they're going to go up on another house right away. So manashach, that you're allowed to do that. The Piskei Mezuzahs itself. So first of all, all these poskim seem to be not like Ramosha. They seem to be more makel than Ramosha. Ramosha couldn't find that heter. Ramosha was going back and forth with so many sforas. He didn't find a heter to the most simple of all heterim, just to put up simple mezuzahs that are kosher and take your own. So the Ramosha doesn't hold to that, but all these other poskim do. Ramosha seems to be a das yakin. Can I get all these poskim? But there's another svara as well that the Piskei Mezuzah says that, since your harama is, which loosely translated as trickery, you're allowed to do for Durabanans. You're allowed to say, you take it down for one kavana with a different kavana. So you could say that you're taking down your mezuzahs to have them checked, and while they're down to be checked, you're going to put up other cheaper mezuzahs, so the house wouldn't be without a mezuzah. And then, once they're checked, whatever, or whether you really check them or not, but you say you're going to check them. So then, by the time that's done, you already have other mezuzahs up. You're allowed to leave those mezuzahs on. So that would also even help for Ramosha, because that would be tantamount to Ramosha's taking it down for the sake of painting. So that'll help for that as well. Okay, there are a lot of other shalos that come up in this, but I think we'll end that with this Nakuda. Yes?
Yeah, isn't it a bizayon to take off the nice ones and put up a simple one? Isn't that a bizayon to the actual mezuzah or the actual bias?
No, so that's what I'm saying. Manashach, bizayon to the bias is leaving a house without shmira, leaving without mezuzahs. That you have is, as long as they're ksheris, then it's a house with mezuzahs. So you're not mavaz of the bias that way. You temporarily take it down for like you're allowed to take it down to paint or whatever. You could take it down and put up another mezuzah. So you're not leaving a house without mezuzah. Which part of this for that from Tosas you see in Bava Metzia, the problem with taking it down mitzad the bias is you're leaving the house without shmira. You don't care about the shmira of the people coming in, and that puts a klola on the one that took it in Masalik, because I don't care about him. I just care about myself. I don't care about his shmira. So the fact that you put other mezuzahs up, then you show you do care. So there's no bizayon in the house. Otherwise, the mezuzah gufa is going to go to another house, because the only tzad chash bizayon and mezuzah is according to the shiltas, and according to the shiltas himself, you're allowed to take it down to put it in another house, because it's dumia tzitzis. You're just like over there. So manashach, you're okay if you do that. So that's what the post will come out. Okay, there are a lot more questions over here that are looking at the Choshen Mishpat, did in Mamanas, how much you can chayav the person, or can't chayav that. We're not going to really go into all that right now. Maybe we'll see more about when you start the Shulchan Aruch. But Mirza Hashem, after this, then the next step is that we'll send out Marmakulas for a schedule from now till Pesach to learn up and Chazer we'll start back to the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch to go through the whole thing. We've actually seen most of the Shulchan Aruch, or a lot of it, through the sugyas, but now we'll do it straight. It'll be a whole different Geshmak Limba to go through the whole thing, Mirza Hashem straight, and get a clarity on the whole Hilchos Mezuzah. Be'ezer Hashem.
And Rebbe?
Yes.
There's one more thing. Rav Moshe didn't want to rely on the shiltas because the Shulchan Aruch didn't? Why didn't he want to?
Yeah, the Stemus of Poskim is not to go with the Shulchan Aruch. The Piskei Teshuva says that in a Shasat Chak you're allowed to rely on it. And that's where Moshe goes back and forth. The Shoel wanted to compare this to the Shasat Chak of the Birkei Yosef of the Piskei Teshuva. If you have special mezuzahs you can't get anywhere else. And Rav Moshe discounted that by saying that the Shasat Chak meant only when you can't get mezuzahs at all, not that you can't get, the special ones that you want. Okay. But we see clear from the Shulchan Aruch that he doesn't mention the chiluk between if you want to put up another house, that the Shulchan Aruch was passing like Tosfos, that not like the Shultas.
Okay.
All right. That's all, Rabbi.
Thank you.